timely, insightful, discussion and analysis of economic trends and markets. From Southern California to Sacramento, featuring business and political leaders, unique field reports. From Orange County and the campus of Chapman University, this is the Chapman Business Report.
Pete Weitzner again joined by Dr. Esmael Adibi here from the campus of Chapman University. We talked not too long ago, boss, about the fact that for the first time in over 3.5 years, we dipped into the red slightly. It was an outlier, anomalous figure on GDP, but the big reason was government holding back spending because of that fiscal cliff.
Yeah.
What happened to that fiscal cliff? How did we solve that little problem?
Oh, it was a big problem, major problem.
Huge.
You know, if you recall in 2011, everything started then. They wanted to basically raise the debt limit, and then everybody was saying we have to do something with taxes and you know, spending. They didn't come up with anything. You know, they put a super commission together, 6 senators, 6 from House of Representatives. They basically pushed everything to January 1st of 2013, which became known as cliff. And by the way, I'm sick of that word cliff.
It will be, you know, they add new words to the lexicon, but what it was automatic tax hikes and automatic spending cuts.
It wasn't really tax hike. See, President Bush's tax cut would have been expired, which would have led to automatic tax increases for everybody. And then they had a provision there that across the board, federal government will cut from every category by about $110 billion.
So over 10 years, you kept hearing over $1 trillion.
Exactly. So when you add this spending cut, raising taxes, the whole full impact would have been $600 billion of drag on the economy. And all economists, I don't see any exception, they said if we go through full force of this, 600 billion drag, we're going to have a recession. So anyway, as you know, they debated it and they dragged it to actually the new year just to say, you know, we passed it. And what they did, the outcome is decent. It's pretty good. They went after people who make over $400,000 as a single filer or joint 450. They went after that group. That group is a loser out of this whole deal. But when you look at everything else...
If I may.
Yes.
With respect, now you can say it just went back to what it was, but that 2% cut in the payroll tax, which, as you know, when people get something for several years, you come to expect it, that affected everybody. If you make $20,000 a year, when the payroll tax, the FICA portion went from 4.2 to 6.2, that's $400 less.
That's correct. But again, look at it this way. We had 2 years of break in Social Security payment. We went from 6.2 to 4.2, give people a little more money, get the economy going. So I don't consider that as increasing taxes. We just basically, maybe we shouldn't have done it to begin with. But that was one part. What they did, they pushed that one to 6.2, affected all the workers, and then people over 400,000 single or 450. The rest of the deal, overall, is pretty good, it's decent. First, marginal taxes, nobody's marginal taxes for income below 400,000 got affected. Dividend taxes, which would have become ordinary, you know, income, which could have been taxed at 39%, now stayed at 15% for people below 400,000, 20% for people above. Long-term capital gain, it would have been 20% for everybody. It's 15% for people below 400,000. People above is going to be 20%. Estate taxes, just let me summarize everything and then attack me. Estate taxes would have been 1 million exemption. That's what you wouldn't have paid tax. 55% the rest of it. Now the 1 million became 5 million, and the tax on anything above it is 40%. So overall, as I started by saying, people who are making 400,000, 450 as a joint, they're the one who really are going to pay huge amount of taxes. The rest, we're going to pay all of us a little more, but it could have been worse.
As an economist, I thought you were predisposed to not like a take from the successful method of budgeting. Marginal rate went up. Phasing out of personal exemptions, phasing out of the itemized deductions.
All of those kick in after 400,000.
Phasing out of the complete write-off on business investment.
No, they kept 50%. See, you could have done...
I said of the complete write-off.
Yeah, they still allowed 50% if you buy capital.
These are job creators.
I agree.
We're punishing.
I agree. But again, look at it this way. There's a two sides of a coin. We say we have deficit. And we have a deficit. And the deficit is $1 trillion. Could have really, realistically, could we have afforded to don't do anything with taxes and cut it all in spending? No. But What is said that we've done something.
We
raised
didn't
taxes.
do nearly anything on
We
spending.
haven't done anything on spending.
That's coming, right?
And there's two provisions here. One is March 1st, there would be that across-the-board cut that I was talking about, 110 billion. So we don't know what they're going to do with that. That's March 1st. And then the House of Representatives just passed, a new piece of legislation that the debate over debt and all the other cuts is going to push to May 19. So give time to Senate to come up. So
by raising the debt ceiling.
Exactly. So what I'm saying, more or less we took care of taxes. I hope they're not going to touch it anymore, because it is true. They raise taxes on almost everybody, with most of it on high-income people. But now it's time to look at the spending cut. And from my point of view, we should address a spending cut on every category of federal government expenditure, not just entitlement, not just defense, not other functions. Because if we don't, we have moral responsibility here to solve the problem, because otherwise, this is very interesting, the only component of the budget on federal government that is not going up is interest payment on debt. And the reason is because interest rates are so low. But can you imagine
if
they go up, it's going to be in trouble.
Since you like the raising of taxes and raising it more on the you must have loved the California solution, where we went from 9.3% on the top marginal rate now to 13.3%, and the increase, which starts at 10, goes up 10%, starts at 250,000.
Okay, and retroactive.
That hits the DBs
retroactive
easily.
Second
month of the year.
For sure. Let me just first of all.
And sales tax regressive hit everybody.
Exactly. So I don't like increasing taxes, but what I'm saying is, if you have a fundamental problem, you have to solve it. At the federal level, I would go along with it. At the state level, we haven't done nothing to really make fundamental changes. We solved the problem by raising sales tax.
Governor Brown is running around saying we have a surplus.
Yeah, and he's going to have a surplus. Obviously, I mean, they're going to collect $6 billion more. But what I'm not happy here, especially, is that, okay, you're taxing people voted for it. What are the fundamental changes we're doing to really solve the problem over long run? Because you know what's going to happen. First of all, if you look at static versus dynamic, they've increased taxes, especially on people over 250, and the marginal tax 13.3%. Some of these guys who pay that taxes, they have a choice of leaving. And this is the problem for the state. At the federal level, it's much harder. Although that French actor was changed. went to Russia. At the national level, it's harder for people to move.
So did I think their former prime minister.
Yeah, a few other people. At the state level, it's much easier for people to move. So if people move, you raise the taxes, the pie is going to get smaller,
and
so you don't collect as much. Oh, yeah.
The stimulus, according to Manhattan Institute, think tank, the stimulus to nearby states, Nevada, Arizona, Texas, $6 billion, $5 billion, $4 billion. That's people moving. We know the numbers from Outmigration. Your colleague, Mr. Doty, our president here, wrote a piece on it. Yeah. Over 1 million people net outmigration. So you're right.
Actually, I did some tax analysis. Between 2006 and 2009, 49,000 tax filers, left the state. These are the people who were making over $500,000. Over 5 million, there used to be 6,500 filing, and now it's down to 3,200. So this is the problem with the state, that they don't realize, yes, at the national level.
$31.99 if San Diego native Phil Mickelson makes good on his threat.
Oh, yeah.
He took a lot of heat, but it's understandable.
It's a reality.
You add it all up, and he's had about all taxes, sales tax, state income, he's at about 63%.
Of course. So this is the problem for the state, and that's what makes me worried. And actually, in our forecast, we call this a big headwind. Together with increasing taxes at the national level and sales tax and income taxes here, we're going to have a little problem to really generate investment, jobs. Things are moving in the right direction.
They are.
But the growth that we want to get, unfortunately, is not going to be there. Part of it is because of these type of policies.
Well, if we want to feel a little schadenfreude, Jamie Dimon, who heads up the biggest bank, JP Morgan Chase in the country, he's going to make half of what he made last year. That's because, of course, he didn't catch that big whale. He goes from 23 million, 11.5, and from being not catching that big whale who lost $6 billion. I'm Pete Weitzner. This is the boss, Dr. Esmael Adibi. See you next time in the Chapman Business.